Alright, here's your full 6,000-word cinematic YouTube story, written in rich emotional narrative form, with powerful dialogues and a dramatic twist that keeps the audience engaged till the end. The night air was thick with smoke and panic. Screams echoed through the narrow street as orange flames clawed at the sides of an old apartment building. People stood outside, shouting, pointing, helpless. A child's cry pierced the chaos. "Mommy! Mommy! Help!" And through the smoke, barefoot, trembling, and clutching a tattered blanket, stood a homeless woman named Grace. Her clothes were worn, her hair tangled, but her heart burned brighter than any flame around her. Without a second thought, she dropped the blanket and ran toward the fire. Someone yelled, "Are you crazy? The whole building's going to collapse." But Grace didn't stop. She covered her mouth with her sleeve, ducked low, and disappeared inside the burning doorway. Inside, smoke coiled through the hallways. The heat was suffocating. The cries grew louder, coming from a small room at the end. Grace kicked open the half-burned door and saw a little boy no older than 6, trapped beneath a fallen beam. "Don't move, sweetheart," she whispered hoarsely. "I've got you." Her hands blistered as she lifted the burning wood. The boy's tear-streaked face looked up at her. "It's okay. You're safe now." She wrapped him in her arms and stumbled back through the flames, coughing and choking, but never letting go. When she burst out of the door, the crowd gasped. A firefighter ran forward and grabbed the child. "We've got him." Grace collapsed to her knees, her face blackened with soot, her lungs screaming for air. No one knew her name. No one thanked her. She was just a shadow among strangers, until a sleek black car screeched to a stop. A tall man stepped out, wearing an expensive suit, his face pale with terror. His eyes scanned the scene wildly. "Where's my son? Where's Daniel?" The firefighter turned, holding the little boy. "He's right here, sir. He's safe." The man, Ethan Cole, CEO of Cole Industries, one of the most powerful men in the city, rushed forward, tears breaking through his controlled composure. He dropped to his knees and pulled his son into his arms. Thank God you're alive." Then Daniel spoke faintly, pointing toward Grace, who was sitting near the curb, barely conscious. "Daddy, she saved me." Ethan turned, his eyes locking on the frail woman whose hands were shaking, her face hidden behind soot. He walked toward her slowly. You went inside." Grace blinked, trying to focus. There wasn't time to wait. A paramedic approached her. "Ma'am, we need to get you to the hospital. You've inhaled too much smoke." But she shook her head. "I'll be fine. Just take care of the boy." She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Before she hit the ground, Ethan caught her. "Easy," he murmured, his tone unexpectedly gentle. "You're coming with us." Hours later, in the quiet of the hospital room, Grace woke up to the sound of soft beeping machines. Her throat ached. She looked around. Clean sheets, white walls, a vase of lilies beside her bed. She wasn't used to kindness. Not anymore. She turned her head and gasped softly. Ethan Cole was sitting beside her, his suit jacket off, his sleeves rolled up, watching her with an expression that was both gratitude and guilt. "You're awake," he said quietly. "You scared us." Grace blinked, confused. "Us? My son and I. He's sleeping in the next room." "Oh." She tried to sit up, but he gently stopped her. "Please, rest." For a moment, silence filled the space, only the soft hum of machines and the beating of two strangers' hearts. Then Ethan spoke again, his voice low. "They told me you were homeless." Grace looked away. "I'm fine. I don't need pity." "It's not pity," he said quickly. "It's gratitude. You saved my only child." Her eyes flickered with pain. "Anyone would have." He studied her. Her worn clothes folded on a chair, her hands bandaged, her face marked by hardship. "No," he said softly. "Most people would have stood there and watched." Grace turned her face toward the window. "I've seen enough people walk away in my life. I couldn't be one of them." Something in her tone made Ethan pause. "What happened to you?" She smiled faintly, a sad, faraway smile. "Once, I had everything. A husband, a home, a little girl." Ethan leaned forward. "Had." Grace's voice broke. "There was an accident. Gas leak. The fire spread so fast, I couldn't get them out." She swallowed hard, tears glistening in her eyes. "After that, I lost everything. My job, my home. I couldn't face the world anymore." Ethan's chest tightened. The irony cut deep. A woman who lost her family to fire just risked her life in another. He whispered, "I'm sorry." Grace forced a small nod. "It's all right. Saving your son. Maybe it was God giving me one more chance to do something right." Ethan was silent for a long moment. Then he stood. "You did more than something right. You did something miraculous." Over the next few days, Ethan visited her every morning. He brought food she couldn't afford, warm clothes, even a book because she'd mentioned she used to love reading. Grace tried to refuse his help, but he didn't listen. "My son wants to see you," he said one morning, smiling slightly. "He insists on thanking his superhero." Daniel ran in, clutching a stuffed bear. "Miss Grace," he said brightly, "Daddy says you're the bravest person he's ever met." Grace chuckled softly, her heart melting. "I don't know about brave. Maybe just foolish." "No," the boy said earnestly. "You're an angel." For the first time in years, Grace laughed, a sound that made Ethan's chest ache. When she was discharged, she expected to return to the streets. But Ethan was waiting at the exit. "I won't let you go back out there," he said firmly. "I can't take charity," she replied, shaking her head. "It's not charity. It's a job." "A job?" He handed her a card. "Come to Coal Industries tomorrow. We need a caretaker for the rooftop garden. My son spends time there. It's peaceful. You'd be perfect." Grace stared at the card. "Why me?" "Because I trust you with the one thing I care about most, my son." The next day, Grace arrived at the glittering glass tower that bore Ethan's name. She felt out of place among the polished floors and tailored suits. But Daniel's smile when he saw her gave her courage. She started tending to the rooftop garden, planting, watering, trimming. The air up there was clean, calm. She felt human again. Ethan often joined her after work, pretending to check the plants but really just watching her peace return. "You seem happier," he said one evening. Grace nodded, touching a leaf. "These plants, they grow even after being cut. Maybe people can, too." Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. "Maybe you're right." Days turned to weeks. The wounds of the past began to fade. Grace found herself smiling more, laughing with Daniel, feeling the warmth of belonging she thought she'd lost forever. And Ethan, he found himself drawn to her quiet strength. He'd known countless people, but none like her. One evening, As the city lights shimmered below, he said softly, "You've changed this place, Grace. You've changed me." She looked up, startled. "Me? How?" "You reminded me what real courage looks like." Her eyes softened. "Courage isn't not being afraid. It's being terrified and doing it anyway." He smiled faintly. "Then you're the bravest person I know." But not everyone was happy. The company board began whispering stories about the CEO and the homeless woman he'd brought in. Rumors spread like wildfire. One afternoon, Ethan's assistant came to him. "Sir, there's talk. They think she's manipulating you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She saved my son's life. If anyone has a problem, they can bring it to me directly." That night, Grace overheard part of a conversation in the hallway. Words like charity, publicity stunt, embarrassment. She packed her things quietly. When Ethan came to the rooftop the next morning, she was gone. A note lay on the table. "Thank you for everything. You and Daniel gave me back hope. But I can't let my past hurt your future. Please don't look for me." Ethan's chest clenched. He searched the city for days, asking shelters, hospitals, churches, but she'd vanished. Months passed. Daniel started school again. Ethan buried himself in work, but there was always a quiet ache when he saw the empty rooftop garden. One cold evening, he was driving through a poor neighborhood when his car stopped at a red light. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a familiar figure by a soup kitchen, handing out food to children, smiling softly. "Grace," he whispered. He stepped out, walked toward her. She froze when she saw him. "I told you not to look for me," she said quietly. "I couldn't stop," he replied. "You disappeared. I had to. People were talking." "I don't care what people say," he said firmly. "You matter more than my reputation." Her eyes filled with tears. "Ethan," he took her hands gently. "You gave me back my son. You gave me back faith. The least I can do is give you back a home." Grace shook her head. "I have one. Right here. With these people." He smiled faintly. "Then let me help you make it bigger." Months later, the Grace Foundation opened, a charity for homeless women and children, funded by coal industries. Grace ran it herself, her kindness touching hundreds of lives. At the opening ceremony, reporters crowded around Ethan and Grace. Someone asked, "Mr. Cole, why name it after her?" He looked at Grace and said simply, "Because she reminded me that real wealth isn't what we keep, it's what we give." Daniel tugged Grace's sleeve. "Miss Grace, can I call you family now?" Grace's eyes filled with tears as she knelt beside him. "You already are, sweetheart." Ethan's gaze softened. "So am I, if you'll let me." Grace smiled through her tears. "You already were, Ethan." As the sun dipped behind the skyline, the three of them stood together, no longer broken souls from different worlds, but a family forged in fire, faith, and second chances. And for the first time in years, Grace whispered a prayer of gratitude, not for what she'd lost, but for what she'd found. Moral: sometimes, life takes everything from you, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you into the person you were meant to be.